This market is unforgiving. To survive it, you're going to need new skills. The minute you realize that your company is not going to save you is the moment you decide to strike out on your own. Your experience, your intuition, your ideas are worth gold. But how can you be sure that your idea will actually sell, and how do you get the attention to do it? I'm pleased to announce the launch of the first official cohort of the Forge Genesis. Betas are done, and I've packed all my knowledge and experience in building my own business into a 16-week peer-based cohort. Registrations and info sessions are open now at learning.fusechamber.com. Links in the show notes below. This week, I'm bringing back one of my all-time favorite guests. He's probably been on the show more times than any other guest in the history of the Badass Agile podcast. His name's Adam Smith. He's the owner of Tension, a Toronto-based user experience firm. I like Adam, and we respect each other, which is why it's so easy to have him on the show so often. But I was just thinking that one of the reasons I like interviewing him so much is because design people ask why. Because the work that they do ends up in the hands of the end customer or end user, I feel like they question things more. They poke the edges. They try stuff. And because he's a fellow entrepreneur and creative, one thing that we have in common that I value so much is that we're both putting things out there into the universe that didn't exist yesterday. Nobody's telling us what to do or what's fair trade for our labor, how to be, how to think, what to make. What we're doing is inherently risky. And I think that's becoming more and more important as the world of work continues to change in ways that we can't fully grasp or understand, much less control. And best still, if you follow Adam's company, he writes about what he's thinking of, what he's experimenting with. He's setting a stake in the ground in complete darkness and letting it light the way for others. So you owe it to yourself to listen to him. Adam Smith of Tension. That's this week on the Badass Agile podcast. Greetings, team. Welcome to the Badass Agile podcast. I'm your host, Chris Williams. Adam, it's really great to see you. How you been?
Very good. Yourself?
Very good, thank you. I'm excited to talk because we haven't done one in probably a year or so. And I've just been watching your website, as I always do, and it looks like things are changing for you. So I'm fascinated with what you do, as you know, and I always knew you as the UX UI guy since we met. But it seems like as AI is rushing forward right now, like maybe your work, your job has changed. So is UI, UX even the thing you call yourself anymore? And in this economy where it really feels like there's a lot of hopelessness going on, like you and I know a lot of the same people on LinkedIn and probably seen a lot of your friends and colleagues all of a sudden, open to work. I've been out of work for 6 months. It's getting scary. This is a really difficult time for people in a lot of different industries. So I might even call it ruthless. Are you still defined by what you do? Like what's changed for you?
It's an excellent question. And one that I've had a pretty significant personal struggle with over the last year and a half. I don't think that I am, not in the traditional sense of a title or a role. What we have always done for customers really hasn't changed significantly, but what we're seen as, what we're labeled as, has changed. When you think about user experience, UI design, product design, these things have come under great scrutiny thanks to AI. And, I feel like the value perception in the market has dropped significantly, whether that be because of ChatGPT or Nano Banana or Vercel or all these tools that can spin up a product in near no time. What we have always brought to the table has been seen as the effort hours, the roll up your sleeves and do part of what we bring to the table, because that's perceivable. That's something that, folks who don't necessarily understand exactly what it is that we do can see as a product of effort. And then obviously there's the outputs of that. I think the value perception has changed also because a lot of what we do is really to reduce the risk of the cost of development. Now, with vibe coding, the cost of development is perceptively, or at least perceived to be, to be reduced. And I'm a vibe coder too. Like, we can do things that in very short period of time that used to be something that would take a very, very long time. So you wanted to make sure that when you're spending the money for developers to come to the table and start actually building something, that they're building the right things. So, I think there's a lot of different factors that are coming in right now that are sort of attacking what UX designers or product designers have traditionally done.
With that said, I think almost anybody, like you could be a copywriter right now, you could be a developer right now,
100%.
you could be a scrum master right now, and they're saying the same thing. Well, AI is eventually going to take your job. I dispute that to a point. I still think we're in the frenzy mode of AI adoption where everyone thinks we must. But if you've been through the internet boom, the smartphone app boom, the cryptocurrency boom, or even Y2K, there's a lot of perceived necessity that creates panic, and panic's good for business. So I think it remains to be seen when it shakes out how much of this is actually useful and how much of it will really displace human jobs. Because if we displace too many, we don't have a functioning society. But let me go off of that. And if I interrupted your thought, please feel free to go back to it. But my next question is, what is your approach then to change and disruption? Because if you just lean back and say, okay, well, what am I supposed to be now? I used to be defined by UI, UX designer, developer, and in your case, vendor, because that's the nature of your business. I never saw you as someone who sat back and said, okay, well, what scraps has the industry got for me? I think you're more in the leadership camp where you have a unique opportunity here because you're so outspoken and so talented that you have a unique opportunity to lead the future rather than waiting for a new trend to come and save you or recruit you. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, thank you. First of all, I'm honored by what you just said, but I would tend to agree. I would say, in reality, AI has probably eaten 80% of profit generating activity for my business.
Really?
Yeah.
And do you think wisely so? Like, are you looking at the things, because when you say it's eaten 80% of your opportunities, this must mean customers that you had are now saying, no, thank you. We'll do this. I just got ChatGPT. I'll do this myself. If that's the case, can you see what they've built? And when you look at it with a purist's eye, do you then go, oh, that's not very good?
So that's a astute distinction, Chris. I want to be clear. It's taken 80% of the effort.
Oh.
It doesn't necessarily mean that it's taken away 80% of the opportunities.
Okay, good.
So yes, I liken it to this. If I was to take a junior staff member on and have them work for 3 weeks, can I realistically get something that they would come back with in a first pass with AI in a couple hours? Yeah, I can. I literally can. However, that 20% piece, that's where the real value sits. And that's based on 30 years of experience. That's based on hitting problems that others haven't had a chance to run into. That's being exposed to various different industries or problems or products, services, so on and so forth that we have had, that we intuitively know, and we can bring that value to our customers. So if they come to us, let's say with a vibe coded prototype, instead of going off and doing weeks of discovery and diving into like weeks of prototyping and wireframing and trying to figure things out as we go, we have a baseline to start with. Does that mean that the baseline is correct? Not necessarily, but it's a place where we can actually start to communicate on the same level. It creates an equal playground where our customers have a standpoint and a viewpoint that they're trying to convey, and we can bring our experience and help them improve it. That is the point when you think about it. For wireframes and prototyping, the only thing that we're trying to do there is communicate an idea of an experience. And if our customers come to us with that, then we already have that ground that we can stand on and talk about at a level of equal understanding. So we actually have the opportunity now for our customers to come to us with a starting point that eliminates the need for us to go around and sort of do all the groundwork, understand their business, understand their customers. Not that we don't have to do that to get it right. We do, but in a much, much different way, in a much more streamlined way. So we can actually talk about things from their perspective, which is a unique shift in perspective for us. So I think it's really a unique opportunity where the customers come to us with ideas, whereas before they would come to us with we need an X similar to this product for this particular industry with zero context beyond that. Now we're starting from a point where they're telling us, and they've been able to build what they're looking for, and say, get it 50% of the way. And we can bring our level of experience and our, let's say, battle scars to the table and help them make it ready for production, and help them make it something that's really, really meaningful and valuable, and avoid a lot of mistakes that those that haven't done what we've done for so long would miss.
So it sounds like anyone who's used any AI agent for just basic in and out stuff, like write me this LinkedIn post, would be familiar with the idea that it will spit out something that, even though a detector will say, oh, that's AI, the average human may not see it, but still, there's something about the feel of a post that may not really represent your voice in a way that feels off when you first get the thing back. So you're going to go in, you're going to tweak it, you're going to humanize it, and you're going to make it more maybe applicable to a particular audience that you're trying to reach or a message that you're trying to give. And it sounds like what you're saying is it's the same thing with UX, UI, in that AI can do a great job of assembling ideas, orchestrating things, creating something logical that obeys the well-known best principles. But you, with X years in the business, have an instinct or an intuition that, this doesn't really represent your brand very well, or this is going to turn some users off, or this would be great 5 years ago, this would be great for smartphone, but for web, no, I don't think this does it. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Yeah. So very much down that same vein. I think there's a little bit more to it. There's at the end of the day, AI is going to spit back a stew or a gumbo of the best of what it's learned. It's not going to be able to create a differentiator for you. It's not going to be able to take something from an arm's length industry as a best practice, as a model or whatever, and then try to find a way to apply it to you, because that's not what it's learned. What it's going to do is give you some pretty decent, passable first starts. Same with whether that come from like ChatGPT or a similar chatbot. You're going to get answers that feel right, but unless you know what to ask, and unless you know enough to know what's wrong, you're not going to get really that much farther than somebody who doesn't necessarily know what they're doing. It sounds great. If you look at the Super Bowl commercials, you know, the characterization of OpenAI is in its results is very fundamentally true. It very much searches for a way to make your question valid. And I've experienced this while trying to build out my own platform and trying to build out a data model and a semantic extraction policy. What the semantic extraction policy that came out originally tried to do was actually find examples of what I was asking for, as opposed to strictly looking for the things that I was looking for. The similarity and the parallel is I think quite important. As opposed to actually finding what I was looking for, it was finding ways to generate things that could apply to what I asked for, therefore being a good citizen in response. And that does not mean that you're getting good responses. It means that it's doing what you asked it to, and trying to satisfy you.
Right. There's a sense that AI is at first, even if you ask it not to, a people pleaser. Doesn't tell you things you don't 100%. Want to hear. Yeah. So this brings me to another question. The AI is one of those big landslide changes. Like, there's no sense arguing that this isn't going to be a big thing, that this won't be part of our daily, because it will be, and it already is. It's changed the way that we act, the way we work, and the way we think. But like personal computing, the internet, social media, as I mentioned before, we have to be careful not to lose our heads, or at least not too early. So what advice do you give to people in general, but more importantly to your clients, to keep their heads glued on while embracing and accepting change? We don't want to be either or with AI, because I think either one's a mistake. But being accepting of change, pivoting, questioning without being swept away, how do you do that in your line of work?
Great question. So simple answer to that is face it head on. And be honest with yourself about what this means to you, perhaps your business, perhaps your role, how you perform your role, or how you transact as a business. But in the grander scheme, I think it's important that you mention the internet. I'm very frequently brought back to 1995 over the last few years. I mean, the last few months. And I think it's because in 95, everything felt possible. Everything was new. You think about e-commerce, and you think about Amazon today. You think about what it's done to brick and mortars. At the time, the internet was just this vast opportunity. At the same time, it was a vast unknown. One of the things that we always have done, and we have sort of grown to be accustomed to with our customers, and the problems that they face and the problems that we try to help them with, is being willing to sit in the unknown. Mm-hmm. To face the uncertainty and accept it, welcome it, if you will, because that's where you start to see where things are possible. That's where you start to see threads that you can pull on. And I think AI is not only a new lens, but it's a whole new world of possibility, and it gives us the opportunity, and it gives us the lens to look at what we do and how we do it, as uncertain and scary as it may be for all of us, myself included, over the last year and a half. It gives us the opportunity to look at things and ask ourselves, why do we do it this way? Is there a better way? And it allows us to question the norms that we have become accustomed to, that we have taken for granted, because there are new ways to do things. And I think it's tremendously interesting and empowering when you think about it that way. And that's what we've always done for our customers, and that's what we've done for ourselves as well.
You know, you mentioned something important there. I always like to say it this way, that the number one problem you have in any business that involves people is discomfort with discomfort. So one of the reasons, if you're doing anything anywhere with anybody, if things are moving slowly or different or in unexpected ways, or there's a sensation that things are being sabotaged or resisted or held back, it's almost always because somebody somewhere is not comfortable with being uncomfortable. And what's more uncomfortable than change? So it's either change or, hard work or accountability or visibility, but often it's just change. It's something different. So when we think of AI resistors, we hear people who say, well, this isn't the way we've always done things, though. This is complete change, completely different. It's going to rewrite everything. And right in that sentence alone is that discomfort that you're talking about. And I always say, look, when I was in grade 9, I won the typing award on a manual typewriter. And man, you want to talk about that award at the time was like, shaving ads and endorsements and stuff. It was a big deal to win the typing award in grade 9 at your high school. Yeah. But now my son can type almost as fast as I can using just his 2 index fingers. So that skill that was so essential that if you wanted a career in business, it's like you better learn how to type, because it's like in Canada, we always say, if you really want a good career, make sure you're bilingual, because then you can work for the government. You can work in any province in the country. And that's still true, but typing on a manual machine is like, that's kind of a dying art. Like, we all remember when the internet came out and you had to dial up to get a connection, right? You had to use a modem and you connected to the phone line. If someone was on the phone or the phone was out, you were out of luck. It was the same thing. I was around when cell networks started, where if you wanted to make a call, it's like, wait a second. It's Adam, did you walk in front of the window? I told you not to walk in front of the window. Oh, dude. So those things have smoothed out. All the things that we look at AI and snicker and go, see, it's not that good. It's going to get better. Whether you like it or not, it's going to get better. And so this is a new paradigm, and leaders help others through that change. There's days when it's like, can't we just go back to what I used to do? Because I knew my lane. I knew where people needed me and where they didn't. And I was comfortable with that. But again, discomfort with discomfort doesn't really buy you much. So this goes back to being an entrepreneur. Forget AI for a second, because you could replace the word AI with whatever the new technology is in 3 years or 5 years, and we're back in the same position again. Let's talk about being just an entrepreneur. Running your own show is a bit like fumbling in the dark. There is no boss to tell you this is a new trend and thou shalt snap into place. Nobody's there to steer that engine for you. You are a guide through the unknown, not just for yourself, but for your customers. What does that mean to you? And what, if anything, that you can think of, have you learned about yourself because you occupy that role now?
Wow. So without question, there is a sense of fumbling in the dark. But as an entrepreneur, and I'm sure many entrepreneurs would tell you the same thing, because I'm not all that unique, I don't think, in that sense. You need to have a sense of strong self-faith in the ability to be in the dark, to find your own way, to fumble, and to fumble in the right direction, let's say, but to be comfortable in the unknown and trust yourself to find the right path forward. I've always felt that way with my customers, with my clients, with the projects that they present us. We've had the opportunity to work with mining and concrete and cybersecurity and blockchain, regardless of not understanding the industry. I've had complete faith in my ability, my team's ability, our processes, ability to find the right solutions for our customers. I think it's a little bit difficult, or more difficult, to do it with a lens reflected or a mirror back upon yourself. with AI specifically, I think there's been more of an existential sort of discussion internally for myself. But at the end of the day, there's always been the trust and the self-awareness that we will find our way through. And I think, I'll be honest, I think that AI has not threatened that. I think it's actually more or less put a magnifier on it. Because what it forced me to do was really take away the activity, take away the process, take away the actions that for a long time I allowed myself to define me and our business. But it forced me to really look at what the differentiator is.
Right.
The thing that makes us unique and the thing that makes us different. And I have to admit, I find it kind of freeing.
I think it's kind of freeing, but I also think it's getting to be more and more essential. I think we're coming up on a time where if you show up at a job every day and you need people to tell you what spreadsheet to open and what goes in cell B4 and why that matters, that's not self-directed work. And I think that not self-directed work is the stuff that's going to disappear first. If AI is going to replace jobs or supplant jobs, it's going to be those low-level, predictable, repeatable processes that you just spoke about. So as an entrepreneur, and if you remember, I hope I'm not disclosing too much, but I remember when you were not an entrepreneur, when you were basically a contractor to firms that sold experience at a much bigger level, the idea was, you're talented, let's hire you. You come do the thing that we say. We'll take care of finding the work and finding the opportunity, the projects for you to work on. You were deeply uncomfortable in that role. You just didn't. There were days where you're just looking around saying, like, I don't get it. I'm not sure what's expected of me, or I'm not sure why this isn't working, but it's definitely making me miserable. And so that's when you discovered your entrepreneurial path and you were instantly happier. True?
100%.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So when I think about entrepreneurship, I think about the qualities of an entrepreneur that I think now are kind of essential for everybody. You're going to have to get good at this stuff, because I don't think we are going to have hierarchies of people passing down instructions to lower level people to execute, because all that stuff will be done by AI. All that stuff is under the pavement is just going to happen. And I think people need to be better at finding opportunities to add value, finding opportunities for their work to have purpose and have meaning and find a home. I think that's the biggest shift that we're going to see, is the way that we work, obviously, but what's required of us as individuals in order to do work. Because the rote stuff is either going to be robotized or automated somehow, some way in the not too distant future. And that's the first time we'll really have seen that in such a large scale in a long time. Yeah. But one of the nice things about being an entrepreneur, it sounds risky and it sounds awful, because I know there are some people who are like, I don't want to sell things. I don't want to find opportunities. I just want that spreadsheet. Let me fill out my spreadsheet, send it back to you, and then I get to go home at 5. Yeah. But one of the nice things, if you embrace this idea of, I have no idea what to do next, I have no clue where to go, how to find business, how to find productive things to do, how to define value, is that you get to be a creator. And for creative people like you, like me, that means spreading your wings a bit more. You're going to have to roll some dice and make some predictions and say, I think this is where we're going and I'm excited, so I'm going to lead the charge. And there's been times, I know you got heavy into VR for a little while. That's something that really didn't pick up in the same way that AI did. So fine, I spent time on it. It's throwaway, put it away, use it later. I don't know. But it didn't turn out the way I thought. So I'm just going to try something else now. That to me is the definition of entrepreneurship, is try, fail, try, fail. Increasingly, you're growing and learning as you do. You have been writing more than ever. And it's showing up. Your point of view is showing up when I go to your website. It's no longer, we are a business that does this, does that. You're speaking truth. Whether it's correct or not correct, only time will tell. But you're doing it more. And that's an escalation of courage, I think. What has that done for you personally and for your business since you started doing more of that?
So over the last year and a half, specifically, the writing has been essentially my vehicle for understanding myself, the implications of AI, what that means for my business, what that means for my industry, what that means for my future, and for my customers' futures too. It's much more introspective, but it's been very much a transparent view into my own journey as a sharing model. But I've really been writing for myself as I try to fumble my way in the dark, if you will, through this process. What I have found is that it's really resonating with a lot of my audience, because there is that pure honesty. And as you've known me for quite some time, honesty is something I wear on my sleeve. And, maybe that's why my company's name is Tension. It sometimes works. It sometimes does not. But in all situations, I always try to be, this sounds silly, but my authentic and true self. And I hope that comes through in my work. And I know that it comes through in my client interactions. But the writing for me has been, this is what I'm feeling, and really trying to get an understanding of where I need to go, because I don't find that there's enough conversation open on the internet about my role, my job, what I do. So I'm having those conversations with myself, and sometimes with AI openly, and really trying to find my way through it. But it goes back to being uncomfortable, or being comfortable in the uncomfortable, being present in the uncertain. And this is my way of getting through it.
Right. I'll shine a light on that because it's super important. And here I'm giving up the role of learning as opposed to dictating outward to the audience for just a moment, if I could, which is that process of writing, especially if you write authentically and say whatever it is on your mind. Even if whatever's on your mind is, I don't know what the answer is, I don't know what's right, I don't know what this means, that's okay. That's what people pay for. They pay for that kind of vulnerability. They pay for that kind of access. But in the process of being vulnerable and willing to question and willing to evolve, you, knowingly or not, set yourself up as what they used to call a thought leader. But in effect, what we really mean is just a leader. You're the person that other people turn to, because in the first month, you know very little. In 6 months, you still feel like you don't know a lot. But as time goes on, you start to say, well, I've tried this with clients, and here's what worked and here's what didn't. I think this is becoming more and more important because the world has become one gigantic factory. There's really only, how many retail brands can you really name? Is it going to be Walmart, then Target, and it drops off sharply after that? Same thing with banks. There's a handful of really, really big financial institutions. Credit cards, same thing. So there isn't a lot of choice out there. That size, that scope of execution and delivery in existence creates patterned stuff. Everything starts to look the same after a while. But you showing up with your authentic voice, not knowing and discovering and pursuing specific deep angles that interest you, creates a voice. And it's a voice where the whole world won't want to follow it. A lot of people really like the predictability and stability of a Walmart and a Visa and a MasterCard. They know what they're getting. But when people want something different, something new, they're looking for voices to lead them. And when you're that voice, you have no competition. So you don't need to appeal to 100,000 people. You don't need your services to be in front of millions. You could have 10 or 20 really, really happy customers who love what you say and love what you do enough to choose you over and over. And voila, you can support your family on that. And I think this is a really special time that we live in because of that. As long as we resist the temptation to not be authentic, right? To say what everyone else is saying or to let ChatGPT tell us what right and good is. We still need those authentic voices. And that's where the opportunity, that's where the crack is right now. And that's where when I read your stuff, I see you fitting in. So I'm going to wrap up with this final question, and feel free to talk about whatever you want if I've missed anything. But I think that the most compelling future comes from your own sense of purpose and contribution, not so much working for somebody else's. And the stronger that sense of purpose and contribution is, the more you filter out, as I was just describing, who should work with you and why. It's like having a magnet that runs on its own electricity, which makes tension a true original. So as we're wrapping up here, so people know who should work with you. And don't forget to tell us how they can find out more about you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that. Basically, people that want to work on themselves, on their corporations, on their processes, and are willing to look at it with open eyes, knowing full well that it's not going to be easy. It's not necessarily going to be fun, but that they know that change needs to happen. Large change. We have built ourselves since the beginning of tension to find those opportunities for organizations. And I think it's actually a whole new world now where there is significant more opportunity for us to be able to deliver the results that we had originally intended to and struggled early on to produce for our customers because of the pushback, because of the willingness to maintain status quo. Neither of those things are really tenable anymore. Status quo is not something we can hold on to. We have to push. We have to adopt new technologies, whether that's AI or what have you. We have to push forward. We have to build moats because there's going to be someone sitting in their basement that can build a product literally on their computer and launch a $2 million valued SaaS platform. Mm-hmm. It's happening all the time. Does that mean that they're going to be as good as an established company? No. Does that mean that they're going to have the ability to leverage all the data? No. But companies that want to push forward, that want to not just survive, but thrive in this new era that we're entering, those are the customers that we're looking for, because we can help uncover those opportunities by sitting in that discomfort, by asking the questions no one wants to ask. And we're called tension for a reason. We're comfortable in uncomfortable situations, and we always have been. But now those situations have an opportunity to drive so much more return on investment and so much more value and benefit for our clients than ever before. So that's who we're looking for. We're looking for people that are open to partners that are going to ask the questions they don't want to ask themselves.
I'm interested in this, your answer particularly, because I think right now I was trying to set up an event on LinkedIn the other day. And sometimes when you do events on LinkedIn, you just have to go through your entire contact list and invite people one by one, which means you got to sit there and scan their title and say, would they be interested in this? Because some people are on your list, but they really don't do what you do. So you don't want to, you don't want to invite people that shouldn't be there. And I notice all my friends have changed their role titles from Agile coach to AI expert. I think that's the wrong move. because now everyone's an Agile or an AI expert. So what? Now there's too many of you. I'm interested in what you just said because you made it sound like AI is an enabler for you, but what you do at its heart, UI, UX, or just helping customers' dreams come true, helping them get to market with a product that customers understand and can interact with in an intuitive and pleasant way, that goal still remains. You just got good at using AI to help you get there. Do I have it right?
Yeah, you hit on the exact theme that I probably should have mentioned already. Thank you, Chris. At the end of the day, what we do has not changed.
Right.
Our job is to find the issue, the root causes that people are not willing to dig and find, and help find appropriate solutions. Sometimes that's AI enabled, sometimes it's not. Our processes are definitely AI enabled. We're able to do things a lot faster than we were even a year ago, even 6 months ago. But what we do is we help customers find the problems that need solving and solve them in the right ways for them. That has not changed.
Right.
At the end of the day, it's either a business problem or a user problem. There's personality, there's psychology, there's workflows. There are so many things that are exactly the same, but there's just new ways to identify them, to research them, and to solve them. At the end of the day, people are people, process is process, business is business. It's just a whole new way for us to address those things. But at the end of the day, it just comes down to asking the questions no one wants to ask.
Can you, just for fun, can you give an example for people who are out there listening who may be not familiar with what you do every day of how AI has shifted that for you, how things have changed but yet remain the same?
Sure.
I'll put you on the spot, but.
No problem at all. So I'll use ourselves as an example here. When we think of the discovery process in product strategy or UX design, we often think of the double diamond. So it's about going out, talking to a number of users, finding as many possible problems as we possibly can, prioritizing those, and then diving down into those that matter. There's a number of mechanisms that we have always used that are, pretty standard. Design thinking, workshops, stakeholder interviews, customer interviews. And some of these things are still things that we do. However, we went through and we sort of evaluated, why do we do all of these things? Obviously, customer interviews, huge. Stakeholder interviews, huge in terms of value and input. But the workshops, what we started to realize was that there's a little bit of hesitation in terms of what people are willing to say in a group scenario, especially if an exec is there. So how do we find a mechanism to get that information independently and exclusively from real people within the organization across multiple levels, and then present that back in an anonymized fashion? So we've actually moved away from workshops and from design thinking in general, and we've really focused on one-on-ones. But we've also started using AI to semantically digest the information that we're gathering.
Right.
Human verified, human fact checked, 100%. But we're also using AI to go out and find conflicting data, supporting data, just through deep research and agentic web search, whether that be through socials or on LinkedIn or what have you. But we're getting a ton more information than we ever had before. And we're having real, honest opinions that we can then present back in a augment and validate workshop, if you will. What that means is we're spending a little bit more time ourselves, but we're asking so much less of our customers in terms of their time. So we've turned what used to be perhaps 8 hours of workshops into an hour and a half validation session.
Right.
And we have the same outputs, if not better, than we did before.
That makes sense.
So we've been able to really streamline a lot, not just for ourselves, but also for the requirements on our customers' time, because that's quite precious in a lot of scenarios. So we've been able to sort of question why we do things and how we do things, to drive to the same, if not better, answers more quickly than we ever have before.
So that's a great way to sum that up, is that you, as we said, what you do really hasn't changed. You have to get to that truth at some point, but the way that we do it, we can call into question now. And you can get through interviews, not only do you get sometimes more honest and spontaneous information from interviewees, but because you can back that up with data that's widely available on the internet or on social media, that AI is already really good at consolidating and presenting, you can get to that truth not only faster, but in ways with more clarity and more support. So this way, if you have just one person's opinion, there could be a sampling error. If just one person in a validation meeting that used to take 8 hours is a dissenter for some reason of personal taste, if there's no justification to I shouldn't say pay attention, maybe it's the wrong word, but if there's no justification to focus on that obsessively because there's no data to back it up in the general research, in the general population, you can save a ton of time and have access to better outcomes, better data.
100%.
Got it.
There's always measures to sort of ensure that, a single dissenting voice in research is not over prominent in the outputs. The importance here, though, is that we can scour the entirety of what's spoken on the internet, some of which is already stored in many LLMs, but some of it is on very targeted research outputs, and bring that into to justify and call into question things that we would have potentially just taken for granted before. So we're able to be augmented by it.
And I think that's the reason why I reached out to you now when I did, is because I saw some of the changes that you were going through, but also felt that in every industry, all my colleagues and peers, they're changing too. And the important message that you carry today, I don't know if everyone caught it or not, is exactly this, is that you use AI as a force multiplier. Sure, someday maybe it will replace humans. I don't know if it'll happen in our lifetime. Who knows? Maybe that'll make life better. Maybe it won't. But what I know is for now, you're wise to focus on the things that only you can bring to the table. And in the case of you, Adam, and me, to a certain extent, what I love talking about right now is that aspect of creativity, that original voice, the leadership, the person who's willing to fumble through the dark so that others don't have to. And know it or not, that's exactly what you're doing right now. And that's what I want to encourage others to do, is not just to sit back and wait until AI is good enough that you don't have to worry about where you're standing when you place a cell phone call. You're not afraid to breathe because you don't want to pick the wrong thing. I also hate to see people relegate themselves back into jobs that they don't really want because they feel like they're about to run out of options. You're not. But it requires the courage to put your voice out there in utter darkness, not knowing what the right answer is, not knowing what to do next, but having the care and concern and passion for what you do and who you do it for so much that you're willing to take the risk. You're willing to say, I don't know how to do this properly, but I'm going to experiment. I'm going to try, which is what you did. So I think it's important now more than ever that people get familiar with your work and your writing. You may say, I don't need UI services right now. Thanks so much. That's not the point. The point is to listen to people who are leading the conversation. So Adam, where can they find you?
So number one is my website, wearetension.com, WEARE tension.com. And that's more a fact than a URL. You can also find us on LinkedIn at Tension Consulting, and as well as myself, Adam R.T. Smith, on LinkedIn as well.
And that's where your writing shows up. You do like newsletter style, you just do posts, or what's the best way for people to connect with you?
I try to make sure that I put most of my posts on LinkedIn, but also anything that I post in a long form, I'm also reflecting on the website.
Great. Perfect. Adam, I always enjoy spending time with you, man. I'm so glad that we're friends, that we had a chance to work with each other, but more importantly, that we still stay in touch and you still inform my work. And I'm happy to be even a small part of yours just by having you on the show. So thank you so much for joining. I want to thank everybody for listening. Adam, it's been a great pleasure.
Thank you so much, Chris. You're a perpetual inspiration, my friend.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. It's the typing award, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Well, there it is, ladies and gentlemen. Adam Smith, one of the pioneers of fractional consulting, and now leading the way for others in the realm of AI. You can find him at wearetension.com, links in the show notes below, and why not look him up on LinkedIn? I'll put the link in there for you as well. Thank you, Adam, not only for your friendship, but for your insights. I'm sure you'll be back on here soon. And I want to thank you for listening today. You can find me at chris@badassagile.com. You can browse all my products and services at learning.fusechamber.com. As always, I look forward to next time, and until then, stay badass.